Good morning, Mr. Bassett. This is your wake-up call. Please move your ass.
So hello, welcome to Camp Kaiju Monster Movie Reviews. We're your hosts, Vincent Hannum
and Matt Levine.
And we're talking about all of our favorite monster movies, the good, the bad, and the downright campy, and asking if they stand the test of time. Traditional kaiju, creature features, space invaders, the supernatural, and everything in between. All strange beasts welcome here. Camp Kaiju is sponsored by Zach Linder and the Zach Pack, powered by Coldwell Banker Realty. Your source for real estate, home rehab, fixing and flipping for investor clients and residential buyers. Reach out to the Zach Pack today for real estate services. Follow the Zach Pack on social media and contact the Zach Pack for investment opportunities. Links in the bio. Hey everybody, thanks for hanging out and joining us at camp this week. Please rate and review wherever you listen. You can also share this podcast with a friend. My friend here is Matt Levine, and we are talking about Tremors tonight.
Indeed. Yeah, I was excited to rewatch this movie. I think I was probably like 12 years old the last time I saw it, so it was fun to revisit it.
I just want to say that you can also, if you love Tremors and or monster movies in general, send us your thoughts and questions and your memories, all that fun stuff, to our email, campkaiju@gmail.com. Of course, you can also reach out to us on Instagram or our website, campkaijumoviereviews.com.
Yeah, no, check out our website. There's reviews on there, as the name Camp Kaiju Movie Reviews implies. Of course, all of our past episodes are on there. Check it out tomorrow, because there will be a new review of William Friedkin's The Guardian up on the website. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to say, rest in peace, William Friedkin. Great horror director, action, just a great genre filmmaker. So R.I.P. Billy Friedkin.
Cool. I don't know that movie. But then again, I haven't even seen The Exorcist.
Oh, it's terrifying. A little like thematically suspect, but it's still a very, very good movie.
Yeah, and I think this year will be the year I watch it. I put on a brave face, do it.
It is still the scariest movie I've ever seen. That's number one for me.
Woo.
Yeah, it's great. But he has some other really great movies too, like To Live and Die in L.A., Sorcerer, The French Connection. Yeah, Cruising I like a lot. Yeah, he's great. Rest in peace.
Yeah. And I was gonna say rest in peace. Is there a time limit when you can say rest in peace?
I don't think so. We still want them to rest. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the actor who plays Earl Bassett in Tremors, Fred Ward, he died not too long ago, a year, I think last year.
Mm-hmm.
So rest in peace, Fred Ward.
Absolutely.
I loved you in Tremors, and I love you in Joe Dirt.
I've never seen Joe Dirt. I really want to see that movie. But I know I've seen Fred Ward in some other stuff. He was kind of one of those character actors that would, maybe it's a strong term, but like he would just appear in unexpected stuff, you know?
Yeah.
I'm trying to like find his other movies real quick. Because I can't remember them, of course. He's in Henry and June. That's a good movie.
I don't know.
The Naked Gun 33 and a Third. I love that movie. Yeah, he's great. Southern Comfort's good. The Player, he's in that too. Chain Reaction. Oh man, he's in a lot of good stuff. Good in air quotes, you know.
Yeah. Joe Dirt, I think, has like a 10% on Rotten Tomatoes. But it was a childhood favorite.
Have you seen it recently? Do you think it still holds up?
I have not seen it recently. It probably holds up the same way, like, I don't know, a Cheech and Chong movie might hold up.
Yeah. Especially if you already have that childhood nostalgia for it.
Right.
All right, well, I'll give it a try. Since I don't have that nostalgia factor, maybe I won't like it, but, we'll find out.
Yeah, but Tremors, we'll see if that stands the test of time here at the end of our episode. I just want to give a shout out to our patrons. We have Jason, we have Peggy, we have Kelly, and our anonymous patron, of course. And it was Jason who recommended we do Tremors a couple weeks back at our King Kong screening. the Heights screening of King Kong. We were talking, and Jason was like, "Hey, you've never done Tremors," and we are like, "You're right." And there's no reason for that. We love Tremors. It's a classic of the genre. So happy to talk about it here and now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And coming up soon, we'll be talking about Starship Troopers. So it's kind of a great combination, giant bug movies. So they go together very well.
Yeah, yeah. And then in September, as we're moving ever so closer to spooky season, we have at least 2 known movies on the docket. We're going to talk about Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. That was my pick for the month. And Matt, you had a pick for the month.
Yeah. What was that? Was it Night of the Lepus or Lepus, the killer? No, actually, I don't think it was. The Day of the Triffids. Was that it?
Nope. I'm pulling it up. 1 second.
Sorry. It was so long ago. What was it?
It is Of Unknown Origin.
Yeah, that's a that's a fun movie. So The Birds, of course, is about birds, and Of Unknown Origin is about a killer rat. So nature turns against humanity in September.
Okay, all right. So cool. I like this theme we're developing here. Do you want to talk about Night of the Lepus?
I still haven't watched it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. But I DVR'd it, and I'm excited to watch it soon. So I'm sure I would love to talk about that in the near future.
Okay. I'll throw this out to our listeners. So if there's a killer animal movie out there you'd like us to cover in September, please let us know. We will put it in the schedule. Whether that's, something really gritty from the 70s, like Night of the Lepus or The Swarm, something from the 80s. I don't know, Matt, we've talked about Orca a lot.
We have. I would love to talk about Orca. I've still never seen that movie. So yeah, that would be great. There's like Tarantula with William Shatner. I think I've mentioned this on the show before, but I'm scared of spiders. So we could do like Kingdom of the Spiders or Tarantula or Arachnophobia if I want
Or
to have. Yeah.
Eight-Legged Freaks.
Yeah, Eight-Legged Freaks is fun. I liked that when it first came out. And I feel like the spiders in Eight-Legged Freaks are mostly clearly CGI, so maybe that'll be less scary for me.
All right, but seriously, you listeners out there, we will follow through. So throw some things on our radar, and we'll see what we can land on.
Definitely. And I'll just say right now, The Birds is my 3rd favorite Hitchcock movie, so I'm extremely excited to talk about that.
Oh, I'll ask you what your favorites are when we do that episode.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Yeah, because if we get on to Hitchcock right now, that'll be the whole Tremors episode.
Yep, exactly. We'll be talking about that for the next 3 hours.
All right. Speaking of Tremors, let's talk personal histories with this film. Matt, where are you coming at with this movie?
So I have to be totally honest, even though I just mentioned that the last time I saw it, I was like 12 years old, probably. And that's true, but I think like all the times that I've seen it in the past have just been on TV with like commercial breaks and probably stuff edited out of it. So this might have been the first time that I sat down with like the uncut movie from beginning to end and watched it. But I was very familiar with it. I had seen like the vast majority of it several times just on TV as a kid. And it's kind of a perfect movie to watch as like a young boy. Like it's like kind of cowboys. They're not, well, actually, I guess they kind of are literally cowboys. And there are giant worms. It's kind of a Western movie. It's so much fun.
I'm excited to hear what you think, because you just watched it for the first time, like uncut.
Yeah.
I'm the complete opposite. This movie is a warm blanket of a movie for me. I've seen it ad nauseum. It's in my DNA. I could probably mute the movie and just say every line along with the picture.
That's great. I don't think I knew that you loved this movie so much.
Yeah. So
cool.
I first saw it when I was probably about 8 years old. I have this VHS that I got for Christmas from my aunt. This movie is not appropriate for an 8-year-old, but literally that Christmas, my brother and I, this is one of my favorite memories. As soon as the movie was over, we would hit rewind and watch it again. We spent an entire day doing that.
Just over and over again.
Yeah, because I was 8, he was 7, and that's just what we did that day.
That's a perfect Christmas right there. That's awesome.
I would pretend to be the character Val in my backyard. I also love Jaws, so this was like, oh, this is land Jaws. A lot of similarities there. Yeah, I love the movie.
I mean, we'll talk about it more, but it's kind of irresistible, and especially if you are that age, and I mean, like it's impossible not to like it, you know?
Which is why I'm like, yeah, Jason, we should talk about this because it's a big one as far as monster movies go. There's a huge fan base that we'll talk about in a little bit. Until then, we can read a brief synopsis if you want.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool. Or do you want me to read the one from the back of the VHS?
That sounds kind of fun to me, actually, if you want to read that one.
Okay. I mean, it's basically the same, but Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward stars 2 country handymen who lead a cast of zany characters to safety in this exciting sci-fi creature comedy. Just as Val McKee and Earl Bassett decide to leave Perfection, Nevada, strange rumblings prevent their departure. With the help of a shapely seismology student, they discover their desolate town is infested with gigantic man-eating creatures that live below the ground. The race is on to overcome these slimy subterraneans and find a way to higher ground in this enjoyable thriller co-starring Michael Gross and Reba McEntire. What do you think of that one?
Short and to the point. I like it. Yeah. I don't know about the shapely seismologist wording, but and I also don't know who's watching this movie for Michael Gross and Reba McEntire, but still, I do like that synopsis a lot.
Yeah. We can elaborate on things though.
Sure, yeah, we can still read our synopsis if you want, see how they compare, maybe.
Yeah, great. Well, you can start. Why don't you start this one?
We discovered that we should name them.
Walter, forget the damn name.
Or suckoids. Oids. Oids. I like snakeoid. That's what I like. Graboid. That's it, graboid.
Jesus, Walter. We're gonna be sorry you don't give it a name.
All right, so handymen Val McKee and Earl Bassett are tired of their dull lives in the small desert town of Perfection, Nevada, population 14. But just as the two try to skip town, they happen upon a series of mysterious deaths and a concerned seismologist, Rhonda, who is studying unnatural readings below the ground.
It turns out that these deaths and tremors are caused by giant man-eating worms with sentient mouth tentacles that grab onto prey and pull them into the monster's mouth. These monsters are dubbed graboids by general store owner Walter Chang, who is killed by one himself.
The rest of the townspeople band together, taking refuge on their roofs for protection when it's realized that graboids hunt by following vibrations in the ground. But they are also smart and begin to dig the foundations out from under the very buildings that people are hiding on top of. As the death toll climbs, Val and Earl devise a plan to commandeer a bulldozer and carry everyone to safety via the mountains, as graboids cannot dig through solid rock.
The tables continue to turn on the graboids, who fall victim to homemade pipe bombs after swallowing them. This culminates in Val luring the final worm into chasing him to the edge of a cliff, and then having it then Val explodes the remaining bomb behind it, which sends shock waves through the ground that frightens the graboid into charging through the cliff face, where it plummets to its death on the rocks below.
Well, what if we throw one that way? Where we want to go? Then when it explodes, if it drives them away, we run like goddamn bastards. Pardon my French.
And that's, there's not even really like a denouement in this movie. It sort of just like ends immediately afterwards, which I think is great.
Yeah, there is a brief denouement where Val and Rhonda consolidate their maybe love for each other with a kiss. I find it very enjoyable, but it was an ending completely tacked on to this movie that does, have some dissonance with like maybe the rest of the tone, but whatever.
It's sweet. They have a nice chemistry together, and I like the character of Rhonda, so yeah, I'm okay with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, like we can talk about that later too.
For sure.
You want to talk about the cast and crew?
Definitely. Well, first of all, I want to ask which synopsis you like better, the one on the back of the VHS tape or our synopsis?
Our synopsis, because if I'm just reading this, say I'm new to Earth and I'm like, Tremors, what is this? Let's see. Okay, we have a shapely seismology student. I'm unsure about that description. And the town, this is fine, this is a typo. Perfection, Nevada. The town of Perfection is not capitalized in this VHS summary.
Man, some copy editor did not do their job.
No.
All of our Google Docs are, of course, immaculately edited before we start recording, so ours is clearly superior.
Yeah, we have a good intern here at Camp Kaiju. Who does that?
Yeah, it's like a small, like slimy monster that's like trapped in a closet somewhere. That's our intern.
You
really
know,
take advantage of
the Blob wanted that job, but we gave it to another slimy creature.
The Blob was too intrusive when we tried to record the episode about the Blob. There was no way we could give him the internship.
He's been crawling around my door lately, wanting to get on another episode.
Of course, so it goes.
It's hard to say no to.
Yeah. Slimy blob-like creatures. We'll work on that.
Great.
Anyway, sorry, back to the topic at hand. So the movie Tremors was directed by Ron Underwood. This was his first feature, but he would go on to direct City Slickers, Hearts and Souls, and Mighty Joe Young, of course, the remake from 1998. Is Hearts and Souls the one with Robert Downey Jr. with a bunch of ghosts? Is that
Ooh, is it?
Familiar?
I gotta be honest, I don't. That's the only one of his movies I am not aware of.
That might be the only other one that I have seen because I haven't seen City Slickers or Mighty Joe Young.
Oh, City Slickers, I consider a classic, but well, that's a different episode, but it's good.
I should see it at some point. Jack Palance, I'm a big fan. I think plays. Oh, does he play Curly? Maybe he's only in the second one.
No, he plays Curly. He is also in the second one, playing Curly's twin. He won an Oscar for City Slickers.
That's right. I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll watch it at some point.
So Tremors is written by Brent Maddock and S.S. Wilson, a creative duo. They would go on to work on subsequent sequels of the Tremors franchise and a whole bunch of other things. Music. This was an interesting factoid about the Graboids. The music is by Ernest Troost, or it's at least credited to Ernest, but a composer named Robert Folk ultimately did a lot of the composition, but was not credited. And I have to give a shout out to the final credit song by Reba McEntire.
Definitely. Reba McEntire also is responsible for my favorite scene in this movie, but we'll talk about that later.
Great.
Last but not least, the cinematography is by Alexander Gruzhinsky, who I don't really know anything about. Yeah, I'm not. The Page Master, the live action sequences, Maximum Risk, that's a good action movie. The Craft, Dick. Okay, he actually has a pretty good filmography. All right. And the cinematography he's Polish American, by the way. The cinematography is pretty good in this movie in Tremors.
The cast of this movie, it's an ensemble nature film. Kevin Bacon is I would say is the star. It's his name above all of the promotional material. But he is just one piece of a larger tapestry of characters. Why do these words come into my mind? Kevin Bacon is funny with this movie. In hindsight, I'll start with the beginning. He was a total career slump at this point. He'd been since Footloose. He'd been in a string of flops at the box office. His agent called him. He read the script and he was like, okay, fine. I guess I will do this movie. Fun factoid about the Graboid. He now says Tremors is the only movie he would consider doing a sequel to that he's made.
I can't think of too many others. Well, he was in Apollo 13. He was in Sleepers. I can think of some other good movies that he was in. But that's cool. I mean, he certainly has some affection now belatedly. But yeah, I read the same thing, that he was kind of embarrassed by it and, kind of wanted to disown it when it came out.
Well, I think everyone did because it was another flop. And he was like, well, my career is now over.
But it was only just beginning.
Yeah.
Rounding out the cast, talking about some more of the cast members, we have Fred Ward as Earl. Rest in peace, Fred Ward. Finn Carter plays Rhonda in this movie, the seismologist. A very charming performance, I think. The film also stars Michael Gross as Bert. He was well known for his role in Family Ties, but would go on to star in subsequent Tremors films. As Vincent kind of alluded to, the film also stars Reba McEntire as Heather. This was her first acting gig, and I read that Ron Underwood was a little bit skeptical if she could pull off an acting role, but was very impressed with her acting chops. Understandably, like I think she's very natural in this movie.
Yeah, and then Ellen, I think Ellen has watched this movie with me once in passing. But she was like, oh, that's Reba. I loved her in her sitcom, Reba. I was like, yeah, I've never seen it, but I know that was a successful show on TV.
Sort of inexplicably. I've seen a couple minutes of Reba on TV here and there, and usually I just try to turn it as quickly as possible. But I do enjoy her in this movie.
Yeah, she's fun.
Yeah. And last but not least, we have Ariana Richards as Mindy. She played the girl in Jurassic Park. I actually don't remember Mindy in this movie. Which one is she?
The girl on the pogo stick.
Oh, of course. Yeah, okay. I don't think she has any lines of dialogue in this movie. That's probably why I don't remember her.
Hey, Mindy, what's the count? 840.
Oh, there you go. You do know this movie verbatim. I'm impressed.
And I tacked her on, honestly, just because she is in Jurassic Park. But there are other actors we can list. Victor Wong, for instance, he plays Walter Chang. Not the same Victor Wong who plays the chef in King Kong, but another Victor Wong who's just as good. Yeah, it's a diverse cast that I think is a benefit to the movie.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, he's the first one that dies in the... Well, maybe not the first one who dies in the movie, but, there's that scene where the graboid, like, kind of rises from the ground into, like, his convenience store, and he's just killed immediately. Like, he has no chance whatsoever. So that's kind of unfortunate, but...
In Tremors 3, Back to Perfection, the owner of Walter Chang's general store is his... it's either his granddaughter or his daughter. But she has a great part in that movie. So, I don't know. If you're interested in Tremors 3, it has some things to offer.
Yeah, sorry, not to get ahead of ourselves, but are the sequels worth watching, would you say?
I have seen Tremors 2, 3, and I saw 4 years ago. There are 7 in total.
Whoa.
Yeah. Tremors 2, I think, is worth it. Fred Ward returns. And with Michael Gross. Michael Gross is in all of them. So if you really love Bert in these movies, he's your character. But they're all in that comedic sensibility as well. So they're good. And it builds up on the lore of the Tremors or of the Graboids. There's some unexpected surprises with the Graboids throughout the franchise. They start to evolve into different types of monsters. Like there's a ground monster, a flying monster. So it's not just like rehashing the same story over and over again.
Cool. I would like to watch some of those.
Yeah, they're worth a watch.
Shall we talk about the production backstory a little bit?
Yeah. So pretty interesting. Oh, before we begin, I just want to say we haven't actually quoted any lines yet, but there are so many great lines in this movie that involve swearing. And I don't know, longtime listeners of Camp Kaiju know that we do keep things pretty mild on the show, but I don't think we can actually talk about this movie without letting loose some swear words. Would you agree?
I would agree. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's like Flesh for Frankenstein. Like you can't talk about that movie and not say some of its like more vulgar and ridiculous lines. It's sort of similar with this.
Yeah. I love the script. I love this movie screenplay. I think it's really good.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that screenplay is by Brent Maddock and S.S. Wilson. They had a hit in the late 80s called Ooh, I am blanking on that one now.
Was it Short Circuit?
Short Circuit, thank you.
Mhm.
And they were shopping around scripts, and they met with a Universal Studios executive director named Gail Ann Hurd. She was known for producing Terminator, The Abyss, Aliens, and she saw their script. She ignored the initial script. It doesn't even, like, that title's lost to history. It doesn't matter. She was like, what's this one called? Land Sharks. And they told her about it. And she was like, great, I'll buy it and I'll produce it. So it happened pretty quickly, actually.
Well, I mean, like you said, it's a great, entertaining script, so it's not too surprising. And I did just want to mention one more thing about S.S. Wilson real quick. Not only did he write Short Circuit, he also wrote Batteries Not Included, Ghost Dad, Heart and Souls, Wild Wild West, which maybe should not be like maybe he wants to suppress that a little bit, but he had some good writing credits on his resume.
Yes, Wild Wild West is a Joe Dirt movie for me. Loved it as a kid, guilty pleasure these days.
Yeah, I rewatched it on TV not too long ago, and that is a rough movie. And like maybe one of the like worst examples of just like CGI ruining everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean I loved it when it first came out in theaters too, so I totally get it.
I could also quote that movie endlessly. So S.S. Wilson, you have my heart, man. Good stuff.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, so after Gail Ann Hurd put the project into motion at Universal Studios, filming began in early 1989, and the film was released in January 1990. Unfortunately, I feel like that January release date is kind of where studios are like, we're not really expecting to make very much money off of this. Let's just unload it,
That's a good point, yeah.
And that is kind of what happened. It was a dud when it first came out. It opened 5th at the box office. And a big part of the reason why probably was the marketing. Universal didn't really know how to advertise this movie. Is it a comedy, a horror movie? I would even say it's kind of a Western. So I think like that's part of the problem with, this movie's underwhelming box office performance.
Yeah, and the genre mashing of horror and comedy is so interesting because like I love that stuff. But I guess I don't think of it as being hard to translate to broader audiences.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I love horror comedies. I also don't feel like it should be that hard to market, but I also feel like film studio executives are not always the smartest people in the world. So not surprising.
Yeah. So the movie was originally rated R. Okay, actually the release was pushed back initially. So maybe it wasn't intended for January, but either way, it was pushed back for some re-editing because it featured way more fucks than what we ended up with. And that you get a hard R. And upon this most recent rewatch, I noticed that even before I read that trivia, I went, oh, there's only one fuck in this movie? Because there is swearing all over the place, but you don't realize that when it comes to the F word, there's only one, and it's when the graboid smacks its head against the concrete wall.
Yeah.
And Val says, fuck you.
There's no way you can censor that. You have to leave that in there.
Yeah. So that was their one.
There's a lot of shits. I think there's one bitch in the movie, and I don't even like saying that word, but yeah, so there's some other swear words, but yeah.
There's a lot of son of a bitch, sons of bitches.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
A lot of bastards.
Yeah, the mild swearing, yeah.
Yeah.
But the way that they like, kind of censor, like cover up the fucks is great.
Yeah.
And I feel like I get the sense that you're excited to read some of these lines. So you can if you want to.
No, you can read them too. I just love you read them and then whatever.
Well, we have 2 written down here, which are both really funny. Can you fly, you sucker, is a good one. But not as good as the best one. Are you sure you don't want to read this one?
No, you read it. You read it. Trust me.
And then we also have, we killed that mother humper, which is great.
And then Val radios in on the walkie-talkies talking to Bert. He's like, be advised, there are 2 more mother humpers. Repeat, 2 more mother humpers.
We killed it! You got that? We killed that mother humper! Come back!
Roger that.
right, Bert, and congratulations. Be advised, however, there are two more mother humpers.
It kind of just adds to it. It's awesome, yeah.
And that's what. Sorry, go on.
Well, I mean, this is kind of a tangent again, but there's the famous way that they cover up that line in The Big Lebowski where I think it's John Goodman's character. This is very vulgar, I'm sorry, but he says, "This is what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass." But the way they cover that up on like television broadcasts is, "This is what happens when you meet a stranger in the Alps," which is my favorite, like self-censor, or not self-censorship, but just like censorship of swearing ever. It's amazing. I love it.
In terms of Tremors, when they had to go back to their script and be like, okay, what can we change to eliminate some of these F-bombs? It just makes me think as a writer how sometimes using, especially the F word, can be a bit of a crutch that you can lean on.
Yeah.
And it's fine if this movie originally had those lines, but how much more enjoyable is it that they got creative and came up with mother humper instead of motherfucker?
Yeah, it's like it totally fits the, like, you know, campy, silly vibe of the movie, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, I just something I like to think about.
Yeah.
So the movie bombed upon release, but it became a huge hit with video rentals
and TV syndication. Like I still see it all the time on TV.
Yeah, I remember like on family trips turning on the TV at the hotel, and there it is. There's Tremors. I'm gonna sit here and watch this now.
Right. It's the kind of movie where if you're flipping around and it comes on the TV, like you cannot turn the channel. It's impossible.
Do you remember watching movies on TNT or TBS where you would get 5 minutes of movie and 10 minutes of commercials?
Yeah, I do sort of remember that. And then, I mean, like, that's the good thing about, I know you have like the actual VHS copy, but like when I was a kid, we would always record stuff on a VHS tape. So we just had like boxes and boxes of stuff lying around. So, you know, if you recorded off a TV, we would always just like fast forward through that stuff. But yeah, it was very, very annoying for sure.
Yeah. Suddenly it's like, oh, this 2-hour movie's on at 3:00. Like, no, that movie's gonna be a 4-hour runtime. It's gonna be late when you're done with it.
Yeah, and you're just gonna be sold to the entire time. It's not always a good feeling.
Like I said before, there's 7 movies in total, so there's 6 sequels after this. There was even a sci-fi TV channel, or a sci-fi original TV show in 2003. Only lasted 1 season. But again, I think it just speaks to the huge outpouring of love for this movie from its fan base.
Definitely. Have you seen that TV show?
I think I remember tuning in when it was on. Yeah, I definitely remember it being on, but I don't remember the show itself.
Okay.
Why isn't that streaming somewhere? Maybe it is. I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe on YouTube? Like, I feel like forgotten TV shows often end up there, so we'll have to hunt it down.
Yeah. We could take a sponsor break at this point, unless there's anything else you want to add.
Not at this point, I don't believe.
Okay. Well, Tremors and Camp Kaiju in general is sponsored by Zach Linder and the Zach Pack, powered by Coldwell Banker Realty, your source for real estate, home rehab, fixing and flipping for investor clients and residential buyers. Reach out to the Zach Pack today for real estate services. Follow the Zach Pack on social media and contact the Zach Pack for investment opportunities. Links in the bio. And I am pulling up some fan comments that we have here in Minia's mailbox.
Minia's mailbox.
Woo! You can write into campkaiju@gmail.com. You can talk to us on Instagram or our website. But today I posted a question to Instagram. I asked everybody, what are your top 5 Godzilla and monster movies? So we have Gene Eric C. They say Shin Godzilla, Space Godzilla, Godzilla vs. Destroya, Godzilla vs. Biollante, and Godzilla 1984, in no specific order. They also mentioned Terror of Mechagodzilla, specifically the dub, because of how cheesy the voice acting is.
Shin Godzilla is one of my favorites as well, and Biollante has really kind of stuck out for me. When we first talked about it on the podcast, I was like, I think I like this, but I'm not totally sure. And in retrospect, I'm like, yeah, that's one of the like weirder, cooler, more beautiful Godzilla movies. So that's a good choice.
Yeah, I know what you mean. We have another write-in. Ken Sukete says Godzilla versus Kong, Kong Skull Island, Pacific Rims 1 and 2. Interesting choice. I respect that. And Rampage.
Okay, more recent stuff. That's cool.
Yeah, I love that. I love those lists.
I have not seen several of the latter list that you mentioned, like Rampage. I still haven't seen Skull Island, so I got to get on that.
Skull Island, you have to get on that.
Yeah, I know you like Skull Island a lot, and you've told me before that I need to watch that as soon as possible. So if I don't watch it before next time, I'm gonna be in trouble, I think.
I'll just do the show with the Blob.
No, I'm being forced out by the Blob.
No, I would never do that because nobody would want to listen to me talking to the sound effects of the Blob for 50 minutes.
That is true. And then you might be liquefied and gooified, and nobody wants that either. So let's avoid it if we can.
Let's. Again, thank you all for writing into Mina's mailbox. So, Matt, are there themes to Tremors? Is this movie trying to say something deeper than Underground Worms?
I honestly don't really think it's trying to. I think it's mostly trying to have a good time and give us a good time. And that's great. I appreciate that. But as with most movies that even seem like kind of silly throwaway films, there are definitely some themes that we can read into it and take away from it. I think definitely the foremost theme of the movie is male-male friendships. And we see that with Val and Earl. They really seem to love each other platonically, but they have a very close relationship. And I think this is kind of what you were alluding to before when like the kiss between it's Val and Rhonda, right?
Yeah.
It seems kind of superfluous because like the relationship between Val and Earl, that's like the real love story of the movie, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's very domestic. I mean, the opening shot is Val getting Earl out of bed. You know, hey, you slept in, sleepyhead. Let's get going. They live together. Val has a vacuum cleaner that he won't part with.
Yeah.
There's just a very keen sense of domesticity with their relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And like early in the film when they haven't met Rhonda yet and they're going to like the site, like the digging site that the seismologists are at or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, I think it's Kevin Bacon, is like, and I heard she's a girl, and then he like steps on the pickup truck and they like just like race to like the site or whatever. But it kind of throws you off guard because all we've seen up until now is these two guys who clearly like, live together and like just seem to enjoy each other's company. But then of course, in classic kind of like screwball comedy fashion, a woman intrudes as the love interest,
Yeah, but their relationship is also, I would say, more buddy than true romantic interest.
Yeah. I would agree with that. But I also think that like in their close friendship, like it's very sweet. Like there are real kind of like bonds of loyalty between them,
Between Val and Earl or Val and Rhonda?
Val and Earl is who I was talking about.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was talking about Val and Rhonda.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, even like the ostensible love interest is still very buddy. Which I like. I like that this movie isn't concerned with a love triangle that easily could have been written into this movie.
Yeah.
But it's not there. She's just one of the gang. And their only concern is literally surviving man-eating worms. It would be weird to shoehorn like a true love story into this.
Yeah, which they do kind of try to do at the end, but it does seem like kind of a tack on, like you said. But the way that Rhonda is introduced, I think, supports what you just said, where it's very charming. She's like talking to them in the truck, and she has like sunscreen on her nose, and she like looks kind of funny, and she doesn't realize that she's wearing it, and then they drive away, and she's like very embarrassed about it. It's a wonderful character introduction. It automatically makes us like her from the start.
Mm-hmm. And that moment when Rhonda's attacked by the graboid, And Val saves her, and then after the chaos has died down, they're inside the general store, and Val is tending to her wounds and stuff on her legs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a very sweet moment. And I love it. Like, if you want to look into it, it's like, oh, Val is a sweet guy. He's not being a perv here. He's not being anything but caring.
Yeah.
And it's in that moment you see that, oh, okay, she could fall for him.
Absolutely. If anything, I feel like he kind of resists her for a while at first, before he warms up to her a little bit.
Oh yeah, because she doesn't follow his list of the ideal woman, Tammy
Yeah.
Lynn Baxter.
Yeah, right. And then of course Earl is like, your vision of an ideal woman is ridiculous. Nobody exists like that, It's a wonderful conversation. I love that part of the movie.
Yeah, for better or for worse, that was always one of my favorite lines. You will have long blonde hair, big green eyes, world-class breasts, ass that won't quit, and legs that go all the way up. I was like 8 years old saying that to myself.
I mean, like, this movie was teaching young boys, the ways of the world, I guess, for better or worse.
But then I grew up and realized that it's a bunch of nonsense.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And, I mean, like, we've already kind of alluded to it a little bit, but like, Val very quickly realizes that like his dream of a perfect woman, like he knows that it's kind of bullshit too, right? And then he, meets somebody who's just like a good, intelligent, strong, nice woman. Like, I don't know, it's a sweet character arc, I think.
Totally. And I love Earl's his position in this love story that's kind of going on. He's just like this like an older brother almost. He's never jealous of Val. He's just there to support and kind of like push them both towards each other.
Yeah. Yeah, like in that scene where Val is fixing the wounds on her legs, you can see Earl just kind of smirking at both of them.
Yeah.
He knows what's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of other favorite lines when Earl says, "Oh, damn it, Val, listen to me. I'm older and I'm wiser." Val says, "Well, you're half right."
Yeah. Yep, that's a great line for sure. I feel like I'm at a disadvantage because this movie so much better than I do, but there definitely is a lot of great dialogue.
Well, I don't know if I'm proud of that, but be that as it may.
I think you should be proud of it.
Well, thank you. What I'll do is I'll like take audio from the movie and I think I'll splice it throughout this whole episode.
Oh, that's great.
Just to like change things up.
I love that.
So many great lines.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that in terms of themes, though, going back to like male-male friendships, male-female friendships, to me, that's like the biggest thing. For me, anything else, I feel like I'm just kind of reaching for something.
Well, I think the depiction of like, it's not even like, rural life seems like an understatement a little bit. Like they're in the middle of nowhere, and this town, like even 14 like residents seems like an exaggeration. Like I think there are like 6 people that live in this town, and they're all in the movie. And it's it's cool. It's kind of like a bucolic vision of like living like off the grid, like getting so much out of the beaten path that like you're miles away from anything. Like to get help, they need to like ride their horses to this nearby town of Bixby, which I think is like 45 miles away or something. So I don't know if that's a theme of the movie necessarily, but I think it's just kind of interesting. It's like kind of like an echo of like the themes in like old Western movies where it's like the uncharted frontier, like that's why I think this is kind of like a pseudo Western a little bit, because this kind of has that same like rustic appeal to it,
I agree. And remember last year we did like a Western month in September?
Yeah, I know we talked about Prey. I can't remember. Oh, I think it was Vampires, which is a pretty bad movie.
Yeah. Like, if there's one thing I could change in my entire life, it would be to record Tremors last year instead of Vampires.
Yeah, that's my bad.
No.
I was the one that suggested it.
Hey, it's good to talk about bad movies, too.
Yeah, I definitely feel that way, yeah. But I do agree that Tremors does that kind of Western mashup way better than Vampires does.
Yeah. Love John Carpenter. That movie, totally missed the mark for me.
Yeah, probably the worst movie in his career, I would say.
And still not one of our most highly downloaded episodes of Camp Kaiju, interestingly enough.
Maybe not surprising, though, because I don't know how many other people like that movie either.
Yeah. Vampire fans out there, write to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Also, we should have a vampire-themed month sometime, because there are countless great vampire movies to talk about.
Yeah, including Last Voyage of the Demeter, which is out right now. Speaking of box office flops, it has been buried by Oppenheimer and Barbie.
Those, I'm glad those two movies are out on like big events and stuff like that, but they're kind of burying everything right now, including the new Mission Impossible movie, which is to, go along with the theme of this episode, fucking awesome. It's incredible. Really love that movie. So if you haven't seen the new Mission Impossible, go out and see it. It's really, really great.
And The Last Voyage of the Demeter. All right. We got to talk about the special effects in this movie.
Yeah.
The most interesting thing for me is, the special effects were by a company called Amalgamated Dynamics. This movie came out, it was produced in 1989. Jurassic Park was released in 1993. Tremors is like the last of its kind before Jurassic Park completely changed the game with computer generated imagery, for better or for worse, right? But in Tremors, we were seeing puppets, we're seeing animatronics, we're seeing actors interact with actual props.
I feel like I need to get in my obligatory anti-CGI rant, but I will just always prefer like a physical object on screen, like even if it's a little bit cheesy or unconvincing, just like that tactile sense. And this movie has it for sure. Like the graboids are maybe not scary, like I was never very scared by this movie, but they're definitely like gross and slimy and cool if you're like, especially if you're a young kid and you're watching this, like it's so awesome to see these big worms on screen. They look great. It's really well done.
Yeah, it's a great design, and some moments where I was not scared, but like I had a visceral reaction. I still do. When Walter Chang is eaten, as he's getting pulled into the graboid's mouth, one of his legs is sticking out of the mouth. And in my mind, I'm always like, he's not even getting sucked in neat and clean. He's gonna break a leg as he's getting in. Now, obviously, that is, practical effects in some way, shape, or form. But it was a choice. I don't know. It was just like, ooh, that's like a gross moment.
It definitely, I think it's an echo also. I don't know if this is intentional, but it reminded me a lot of Quint's death in the original Jaws. Just the fact that like the animal comes up from below and like grabs the lower half of his body and like takes him back down. Like a lot of similar imagery in Tremors also.
For sure. I think that is, if it's not like intentional coincidence, Ron Underwood was probably subconsciously influenced by Jaws. I know the writers were. This movie was called Land Sharks to begin with.
That's a great piece of trivia. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, and like I feel like if you're making a monster movie in the wake of Jaws, you're probably like automatically influenced by it,
Yeah. So I found some pretty cool trivia about props and special effects. I wanted to read a couple of them that I found interesting. This is from screenrant.com. Okay, so the graboid design did go through some modifications. Another idea was to depict the graboids with an outer shell. When above ground, the graboids would withdraw its shell to reveal a smaller, slimy inner worm. However, the phallic result prompted laughter on the set. So they nixed that idea.
Understandably, yeah. I feel like maybe, not to reference another classic monster movie, but I feel like maybe they're going for the Alien effect, of like the mouth opening and like the little phallus like shooting out. But it's scarier in Alien than it probably would have been in this movie.
Right, because Alien's tone is a horror movie.
Yeah.
And I feel like in this movie, if the graboid looked like a penis, it wouldn't work.
Probably, for the best that they changed it. And I think like the three little worms coming out when the graboid opens its mouth, like, is pretty effective. Like, it is slimy and gross in the best possible way.
Oh yeah, slimy and gross, like the brain bug in Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
there's an actual connection to Tremors and Starship Troopers. Did you know this? That shrill roaring sound effect used for the graboids was recycled for Starship Troopers for the bugs.
Huh. I did not know that. I did know that Amalgamated Dynamics, which is a great like company name. It sounds like it should be like the villainous corporation on like Terminator 2 or something, you know? But they also did some of the creature effects in Starship Troopers, so there's a connection there as well.
Okay. Yeah, maybe they just had the rights to that sound effect and they pulled from their library.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is true offhand, but maybe even they had some of the same like sound designers working on it. It's possible. I love the moment in Tremors when they're running away from one of the graboids and they kind of jump over an aqueduct, and then like one of the graboids like slams into like the concrete wall and like bursts through it, and just like it's dead like proboscises or whatever, like these three like worm heads are just like hanging over the side. It's great. It looks very, very good.
Yeah, and another great moment is when the graboid bursts through Bert and Heather's basement wall.
Yeah.
So that was a miniature set. The graboid in the wall, that was a miniature. And you could see it is the human characters are not in the same shot as that miniature. There's one of Bert, but you can see that it's I don't know what the word is. A composite shot.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I don't know if it's rear projection, but they must have shot like the miniatures separately and just like, yeah, superimposed it onto the shot of Bert's character.
Yeah. But that's a great scene when they're pulling off every gun off their wall.
I was definitely going to talk about that in my good, the bad, and the campy section, but I can just talk about it right now.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Good, the bad, and the campy.
Yeah, oh my god, that's the funniest scene in the movie. Like, especially just seeing Reba McEntire just like unload entire assault rifles at this graboid. Like, you know, just knowing her demeanor and personality and like her accent and stuff like that, and then to see her just like unload all these like weapons into a graboid. It's very, very funny. I really love that moment a lot. It's also a little bit questionable. Like, I definitely think that scene is like, yay, guns, let's just shoot as much as we can, you know? So I don't love that aspect of it, but it's a really funny scene, and it just keeps on going and going and going in like the best way, and there are just like bullets flying all around them and everything. It's extremely amusing. I love it.
And Bert and Heather's characters, they're so over the top with their survivalist mentality that you can't help but like that's part of the tongue-in-cheek nature of the movie too.
Yeah, for sure.
She shoots a flare gun at the graboid. Like one of the last things.
Yeah. And just, you know, the guns of course keep on getting more and more powerful. Like it starts with like relatively, you know, like hunting rifles and stuff like that, and then it ends with like just like the most enormous machine gun you've ever seen.
And the elephant gun.
Yeah, right, exactly. And like when I was a kid, I didn't really realize the humor of seeing Reba McEntire shoot a bunch of guns at this giant worm. But now I'm like, oh, I really appreciate this, you know? This is cinema at its finest.
Broke into the wrong goddamn rec room, didn't you, you bastard?
Any other things you liked about the movie?
Yeah, like I'll tie this into the form and aesthetic conversation a little bit. I just think it looks really good. I think Ron Underwood has some moments of like visual flair in this movie. There's one crane shot where Val and Earl and I think one other character are like walking out of a building, and they walk to like another, I don't know, just like a dusty pit or something nearby. And there's this really elaborate crane shot where it like tracks them for a while and then it like soars into the air. And it's like, I don't think you needed a crane shot for this moment, but it looks great. I love it.
There are several shots with the overhead visual that I completely agree with you. It's like a great way to get the lay of the land as the audience and see where they are in relation to the buildings and other set pieces. Yeah, it's not something I see often in movies.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think there's a sense for like, I don't know, sometimes I think you can tell when movies are storyboarded very well, and like every shot kind of like ties into another one. And like you said, you have a good sense of the visual space. I was impressed by that in this movie. I also love the moments where it's kind of like the worm's point of view shot as it's like barreling through the ground. I don't know exactly how they did that, but it looks really good.
I love that the graboids get smarter, that they're not just dumb things. I love that one of them becomes a character in and of itself, old Stumpy, that keeps coming back. I think that's a really smart choice from, I'll credit the screenwriters for that.
Yeah.
I love the pole vaulting. I think that's a classic scene. Pardon my French. That's a great, reoccurring joke. I just love all the twists and turns this movie takes. It's just the monsters continually keeping the humans on their toes.
Yeah, this movie's short and sweet, but it keeps on throwing like, twists and like obstacles in the way to keep it interesting.
Yeah. Bad. I'm trying to think. I didn't take notes, unfortunately, with this rewatch. I don't have any apparent like flaws, but I'd love to hear anything you have, and that might spark my own.
For sure. I guess sometimes I think this movie kind of, like you mentioned, the tongue-in-cheek aspect before, which is entertaining, but I think it's kind of like a fine line of being like knowingly campy and tongue-in-cheek, or just kind of like playing down and like trying to be dumb a little bit, Like I feel like this movie kind of plays into its silliness sometimes, and that is what's entertaining about it, but it's also like sometimes it can seem like a little bit glib, I guess, or something, if the movie's sort of like, we know we're dumb and we're gonna like lean into that a little bit, Like I wish maybe like I think you can really tell that in the performances. And I don't know, I'm of two minds, and that's why I'm kind of rambling a little bit, because it makes it a fun movie, but also I'm like, it keeps it from being great, because even the movie knows that it's not going to be great,
Yeah.
Like there is a specific example for me, and I would kind of wrap this up in my campy category as well. But it's immediately after Bert and Heather kill that graboid, and like all the other characters rejoice in like very ridiculous, over the top ways. They're like literally like pumping their fists and like yelling and like clapping and stuff like that. And it's just like, this is funny but dumb. And like I don't know, the moments like that, I'm like, you're straddling a very fine line between like, the tongue-in-cheek aspect, or just kind of like being, stupid just to be stupid, basically, And I love stupid. I'm conflicted. I'm ambivalent about it.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. That just made me think about like a plot hole. I'm sure there are way more others you could think of, but I always thought this, like, they go get Bert and Heather from their compound, but I'm always like, well, just stay in Bert and Heather's compound, make some noise, draw the graboids to you, and then just like shoot them up the same way Bert and Heather did.
Yeah. I'm sure they have grenades and rocket launchers and stuff. Yeah. That would make sense. I guess it would kind of eliminate the suspense a little bit, because I do like the part at the end when they're all trying to board that like big, construction vehicle or whatever,
Yeah.
That's a good moment.
Yeah, I love all that stuff.
Yeah. But you're right. I mean, and then just in general, it's like, it kind of goes back to the lack of thematic depth a little bit. It's like, this is just a story about giant worms. Like, it's not, I like it very, very much, but I would not call it a great movie or a masterpiece,
Right. Yeah.
But, and like it, that's fine. The movie knows that, it's not
right.
terrible
It
thing.
is intentionally in the same vein as the great 50s monster movies.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, now there are bugs in this world. Now there are giant worms. The science doesn't matter as much as what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, for sure. I would compare it to a movie contrasted maybe with a movie like Them. And Them, is a 50s monster movie with giant ants, but I think it also has that kind of political subtext and like the kind of nuclear paranoia, this kind of like vision of like martial law in a couple scenes in that movie. So I do kind of wish there was more thematic depth in Tremors as well, but if there was, it would be a totally different movie and would be probably less entertaining. So, there's a good side and a bad side to that.
That's a great example, using Them. I totally see what you mean now, 100%. But yeah, I think that's the difference between like, oh, Tremors is clearly more comedic.
Mhm.
And how do critics look at comedy? Just use the Academy Awards as one example. Like, comedies never get nominated for major awards.
Yeah.
why is that open for discussion.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'm probably unfairly slighting Tremors a little bit for that very reason,
No, I love what you're talking about. I think that, we've talked about that on the show before. I can't think of any examples right now, but where I know I've said, I wish it took itself a little more seriously.
Yeah.
To just put it over that hump into like bona fide masterpiece.
Yeah, with something to say,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think even with the original King Kong, we were talking about that a little bit. Like that's an all-time classic for sure. But maybe it doesn't have the thematic depth that like the great monster movies of all time have. Right. In my opinion, anyway.
I agree. Yeah. Campy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot for sure. There is that scene that I mentioned where like after they kill the graboid, like there are just like these really preposterous reaction shots. Which that's a very entertaining moment.
Just the whole movie. I'm just thinking of other favorite scenes of mine, like Val and Earl are cleaning the septic tank from that one house, and then the pipe bursts and they get covered in shit. Ooh, a great set piece. This isn't campy, but I have to mention it. When the car gets sucked down, that whole scene is really well done.
Yeah, and then like you just see, later on they just see like the headlights and like the grill of the car like looking up from the sand. That's a great shot.
Yeah, and they can hear the country music playing under sand.
That's a great scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like, it's hard to pick a specific campy moment because I think like almost all of the line readings kind of play into that a little bit. So, in a very good way, in a mostly good way, I think this movie is like 95% camp,
Yeah, right. That's what it is going for.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you want to give it a final rating?
Let's do it. Yeah. So our highest rating is it's a timeless classic and definitely stands the test of time. Our second rating is there may be some antiquated moments, but overall it's great and stands the test of time. Number 3, it may be historically significant or just fun, but it does not stand the test of time. And our lowest rating, it is not worth revisiting and definitely does not stand the test of time.
All right. Where are you at?
I'm going to give this our second rating. There may be some antiquated moments, but overall it's great and stands the test of time. I don't think it's antiquated per se, but I think there is kind of a lack of depth and like a sort of like, proudly silly vibe, which is entertaining, but like keeps it from like being a true classic and a really great movie. But it's irresistible. I mean, this is just such a fun, entertaining, and like surprisingly sweet movie. It's extremely enjoyable.
Yeah, surprisingly sweet is a good way to put it. No surprise, it's a classic for me personally, but I just think as a horror comedy, it's one of the best. The script is full of one-liners, but it's also I just love how it's structured and it's smart and it's self-aware and just, again, keeps you surprised.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And, on the 95-minute topic, like it's just such a pleasure to see like a good, concise B movie, like that's not 2.5 hours and has like endless fight scenes and stuff like that,
Exactly. It's not overcast. It's not overstuffed with a B plot and a C plot.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's just like we have 6 people, giant monsters, worms. That's it. And it's enough. And it's great.
Yeah, totally. Like, it kind of reminds me a little bit, I know we're wrapping things up, but like, some of Howard Hawks' classic movies like Rio Bravo or Only Angels Have Wings. I'm not saying Tremors is as good as those movies, but like Howard Hawks definitely did the thing of like, let's just put a small group of people in one contained setting and let it play out and see what happens,
Yeah.
Tremors has the same kind of vibe.
Yeah. Howard Hawks is the thing as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yep, exactly.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up here for us in perfection. If you liked what you heard, please give us a rating and review wherever you listen to Camp Kaiju. Tell a friend while you're at it. We'd love to increase our listeners. You can visit campkaijumoviereviews.com or Instagram for more monster movie content. Can't thank you enough. Camp Kaiju is recorded in Minneapolis, St. Paul with theme music by Terrence Jackson and Media's Mailbox by Ben Cook-Phelps. Camp Kaiju is sponsored by Zach Linder and the Zach Pack, powered by Coldwell Banker Realty. your source for real estate, home rehab, fixing and flipping for investor clients and residential buyers. Reach out to the Zach Pack today for real estate services. Follow the Zach Pack on social media and contact the Zach Pack for investment opportunities. Links in the bio.
Damn it, Valentine. You don't go for any gal unless she fits that stupid list of yours from top to bottom.
Well, sure.
Yeah, and is dumber than my hind end. I mean, like that Bobby Lynn Dexter.
Tammy Lynn Baxter.
Don't matter. They're all the same. Dead weight. Ooh, I broke a nail. Makes my skin crawl.
Well, I'm a victim of circumstance.
I thought you called it your pecker.